to declare that Jesus Christ is the Savior of his soul is the greatest miracle and the greatest thing anybody could ever say and have is salvation. So without any further delay, we're going to show the video that will introduce his story, and we'll bring it up to the platform, Dave Dravecky. If gentlemen, you can help me with the video.
Before I begin, just a brief update. The Giants are losing 3-0. That's a bummer. Are we doing okay here? Not yet? Breaker 19. Yeah, there is a mic, but you know what? I need my hands free. Oh, you'll take it? Oh, okay. Oh, is that messing up the connection? Oh. Cool. There's a lot of power in this place. Yes. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be here this evening with all of you. It really is a privilege and an honor for me to not only be in Giants territory, at least I hope so. We have Pastor Adam down here in his Giants tops, so that's a good deal. His brother Tony over here is the Dodger fan, and we'll forgive him for tonight. We had a Giants hat somewhere over there, and you got the baseball. Yes, keep that Giants hat on wherever you are. There you go. Cool. I love it. Now, I want to ask you guys a question, though. Are you all Raiders fans or 49ers fans?
Raiders!
What do you all think of the Broncos? Well, I actually live in Denver, so we're Broncos fans. And I apologize, but we're actually getting ready to move at the end of this month, and we're coming back out. It feels like we've gone full circle from when I retired, and my wife and I are coming back out to this area. My grandkids live in Turlock, California, and I'm going to be with my grandkids. So we're real excited about that. You know, this evening, as I begin, I want to share a quote with you that has been really, really powerful in my life. And it comes from a wonderful book that was written by a man by the name of Larry Crabb. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with Larry Crabb. He is a dear friend of mine. He's an author. He's also a Christian counselor. But he has written a number of books related to his own personal journey and struggle. And I've appreciated so much the things that he has had to say in those books. But one in particular that he wrote about a year ago is called The 66 Love Letters. And it's actually the 66 books in the Bible that he describes in the context of being a love letter. And what was so interesting about the book was the very first quote that he wrote in the book that was from an individual by the name of Christopher J.H. Wright. Now, I have to apologize. I don't know who Christopher is. But I love his quote, because tonight I want to talk to you about my story. And this quote directly links where I feel my story is in the context of my relationship with God. Christopher says, we ask ourselves, where does God fit into the story of my life? I mean, how many of us in this room tonight have asked that question? God, where do you fit into the story of my life? And Christopher goes on to say, when the real question is, and should be, where does my little life fall into the great story of God's mission? Because you see, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we're all here for a purpose. And every one of you, no matter what your backgrounds are here for a purpose. And there's a story that's going on in your life. And it's very unique to you. But what's powerful about that story is how it connects to everybody else in this room. Everybody else. And I think the challenge that I have discovered in my own life is not where God fits into my story, but where mine fits into His greater story. And that's what I'm all about today, is trying to understand where I fit into that amazing story that God is writing, not in just in my life, but in all our lives. Because when I begin to connect with that, I begin to see the purpose of my life here on this earth. And there is so much power in understanding that as I begin to relate to people every day. So we're going to go on a journey tonight over the next few moments. And I'm not going to keep you here long because I was told not to. I brought a prop with me tonight, and it's a picture of me wearing my Giants uniform. Now, obviously, when you look at this picture, it's a picture of Dave as a baseball player, but there's so much more to Dave than just being a baseball player. There's Dave the man, there's Dave the husband, there's Dave the father, there's Dave the friend. There's so much more to me than just being a baseball player. And yet, this baseball card really does, in many respects, identify me in a very certain way. But I want all of you to know that as God's writing our stories, every one of us has a card. It may not look like this, but we all have our own cards. We all have our own cards. And on the front of that card is a picture of you. And that picture is very important. Now, there's three things about this picture that you see with Dave Dravecky as a baseball player that I want to talk to you about tonight. And since it's more than just me as a baseball player and all the other aspects of my life, tonight we're going to talk about those three aspects of this guy, this man who was a baseball player but is also a husband and a father and a friend. And what we're going to talk about tonight is the good, the bad, and the ugly of Dave Dravecky's life. Because in order for you to understand how I began to heal through my journey with pain and suffering, you have got to connect the dots between the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because, ladies and gentlemen, represented in this room tonight, in every person's story is the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's a wonderful question that I want to ask us, all of us, as I've asked myself, as I share this story with you. And that question is this: how do you and I define our true worth? Thank you. How do we define our true worth? Because at the end of this story, we are going to get the answer to that question. But in getting the answer to that question, we're going to understand where our hope lies. In getting the answer to that question, we're going to understand the power of community and the reason why this night exists. Because someone cared 5 years ago enough about people who hurt to do something about it. And that's the beauty of all our stories. We really can make a difference, each and every one of us individually. Now, when we look at this baseball card, I'm going to start with the good. I had a dream. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. You heard me on the video. I wanted to be like Sandy Koufax or Vida Blue, and yes, Sandy was a Dodger. But I wanted to be just like Sandy because I loved watching him pitch. My other hero was Vida Blue, number 14 for the Oakland Athletics. And I remember when he came up at 19 years of age, and I thought to myself, this is amazing. What kind of talent is this that a teenager gets to pitch in the big leagues? I mean, it was incredible to watch those two guys pitch. And so I had this dream to be just like them. And all of a sudden, I embarked on this journey. And as I share this story, think about your own stories and think about your own dreams and the things that you wanted to do with your life. And try and place them into this story as I tell you mine. Because as I embarked on this journey to be a Major League Baseball player, I didn't know if it was going to happen. There were no guarantees on this journey. All I knew was that I loved this game, baseball, and I wanted to be a left-handed pitcher. That's all I knew. And so I embarked on this journey, and the next thing you know, I found myself, after going through all those amateur ranks in high school. And I had finished my senior year of high school, and my coach came up to me and he said, "Dave, I think you have the ability to pitch at the next level." And I thought, wow, that is so cool. My coach actually thinks I can play in college. There was only one problem. There wasn't one university in the entire country that recruited me. Not one. And so I did the next best thing. I was born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio. And I figured, it's my hometown. Youngstown State University is right there. If I can't play anywhere else, I'll just walk on and I'll play for that baseball powerhouse, the YSU Penguins. And I thought, gosh, this is incredible. Now I have a chance to pursue my career, to pursue this dream to be a Major League Baseball player. And for 4 years, I played at Youngstown State University. And I had a wonderful experience in college. And after those 4 years, in the summer of 1978, I was drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates in the 21st round, and the first leg of my dream came true. Life was good. I was in the Pirates organization for 3 years, and it was the spring of 1981. I was in spring training. I was working out with the AAA team, which is just a step below the big leagues. There was a week left in camp, and one of the guys was sitting after practice, and there were about 3 or 4 of us that were actually sitting around, and we were talking, and one of the guys said, "Hey, if you never get to the big leagues with the Pittsburgh Pirates, where would you want to play?" Another guy piped in and said he had heard the best place to go would be the San Diego Padres, because if you never got to the big leagues with them, at least their AAA team was in Hawaii. So we thought, wow, that wouldn't be a bad gig at all. Well, all of a sudden, a couple days pass, practice is over, the farm director walks into the clubhouse and he calls my name. And when your name is called with only a few days left in spring training, it's not a good thing. I was afraid he was going to tell me I was getting my pink slip and I was going to be fired and lose my job. And I didn't want to be traded. And so now all of a sudden, this man approaches me and he looks at me and he says, "Dave, we've traded you." And ladies and gentlemen, I was so upset. Because you see, Pittsburgh's only an hour and 15 minutes from Youngstown, Ohio. To make it to the big leagues with the Pittsburgh Pirates and be that close to home would have been icing on the cake. But when he looked at me and said, "We've traded you to the San Diego Padres," I can't tell you how hard it was to hold back a smile. Because now all I'm thinking is, Hawaii, here I come. And with that, he looked at me and he said, "Dave, the Padres are shipping you off to Amarillo, Texas." Folks, I don't know if you've ever been to Amarillo, but at that time, I didn't even know where it was. When somebody said the Panhandle of Texas, I said, "What in the world is that?" And off I went to the Panhandle in the state of Texas, in an amazing city called Amarillo. And I want to give you a little bit of background in just a few seconds here about where my journey was spiritually. Because you see, I was raised in the church. I was raised to be a good guy. And I was raised with this understanding that you tried to live as good a life as you could live in hopes that the good outweighed the bad. And at the end of the day, when you died and you got to heaven, somehow those good deeds just might get you in. And now all of a sudden I'm in Amarillo, Texas, and I'm in a Holiday Inn. I don't know anybody on my team because I was in spring training with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I walk in and there's my roommate, Byron Ballard. And none of you know who Byron is, but Byron is in my Hall of Fame, and here's why.